Welcome back. One final point before we go. So the Women's March clearly no longer stands for women. We conservative women have been saying that for a long time, but finally, liberal women are joining us too. The founder of the Women's March, Teresa Shook, spoke out today and condemned the co-chairs of the Women's March for anti-Semitism and bigotry. Teresa Shook called for the co-chairs, Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory, to resign. They refused to resign. So let's remind women all across America what the co-chairs of the Women's March stand for. Tamika Mallory, Women's March co-chair, applauded at a speech given by radical hate preacher Louis Farrakhan. Farrakhan has called Adolf Hitler a very great man. Farrakhan called Jews termites. Farrakhan called Jews Satan. Farrakhan blamed Jews for 9/11, called for the death of white people, and laughed at the idea of beheading gay people for being gay. Tamika Mallory applauded for this hateful man. Linda Sarsour, Women's March co-chair, the face of the Women's March, called a Muslim imam who was an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombings her favorite person in the room. Linda Sarsour has also proclaimed that nothing is creepier than Zionism and condemns support of Israel. Sarsour also said she wished she could take the vagina away from Brigitte Gabriel and Ayaan Hirsi Ali, two women who are outspoken about the brutality of female genital mutilation. My question tonight, dear Lord, how hard is it to condemn anti-Semitism? How hard is it to disavow radical hate preacher Louis Farrakhan and his hateful bigotry? If you don't agree with Farrakhan's anti-Semitism, why won't you just clarify that for the masses? If you don't agree with Farrakhan's anti-Semitism, you would think you'd be in a rush to make sure people knew you disavow Farrakhan's evil views. But the co-chairs of the Women's March, they didn't. You refused to condemn Farrakhan. You refused to distance yourself from a man who called Adolf Hitler great. And you want to speak on behalf of women in America? Get the heck out of here. You do not speak for me. You do not speak for women. You do not speak for the majority of Americans who are good people. I, a conservative, am standing side by side with leftist Alyssa Milano on this. Do you know what that means? This transcends politics. People across the board, on both sides of the aisle, condemn this hatred that you embrace. And how do you respond? By belittling Teresa Shook and telling her that her speaking out is irresponsible. Dear Lord, why wouldn't you have posted on Facebook instead and said, yeah, we condemn anti-Semitism and we have nothing to do with Farrakhan? Unless, of course, those statements aren't true. You claim to stand up for women, but you don't. You don't stand up for women who are Jewish. You don't stand up for women who are conservative. You don't stand up for women, Christian women, who are persecuted around the world. You excluded pro-life women from your march. You don't stand up for women's right to choose to keep and bear arms. You don't stand up for Christian women in America whom the government is threatening to shut down their businesses if they don't violate their religious beliefs. You don't stand for women's equality and liberty. You exploit women. You use us like pawns to advance your radical leftist agenda of socialism, bigotry, and anti-Semitism. And we women in America, left and right, we have had enough. Enough of you and your hatred towards Jews and Christians and any woman who dares to think for herself. And that's my final point. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you liked the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a good night.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.